All right, it is officially 10:01, so I am going to go ahead and just say for time purposes, we're going to go ahead and get started this morning. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are really excited to welcome Nathaniel Woodward to join us today to talk about some disability policy in Utah. So really quickly, before we get started today, I do just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. We do have an ASL interpreter working with us today. Thank you so much, Crystal, for being here. She is going to just be a panelist, so you should be able to see her at all times. However, if you have any issues, please feel free to let me know. I am happy to help with, any pinning or spotlighting that you may need support with. I have enabled the chat to make sure that if folks need to, they're welcome to use the chat, whether it's to put in questions or let me know if you need anything. But you are also welcome to use the Q&A feature in your Zoom panel, and that also gives you an opportunity to submit questions anonymously if you would like to do that as well. We do have a full agenda. However, if we get through it, we will open it up to questions from folks. And I think that is about it. Um, right before we get going, I do just want to welcome Kelly Hess with the Institute for Disability and Andrew Riggle as well with the Disability Law Center. They are going to be our facilitators and moderators today. So Kelly and Andrew, please go ahead and kick us off.
Well, I'll take you up on that offer, Aubrey. And again, everybody, I'm Andrew Riggle with the Disability Law Center, and I have the pleasure of introducing Nathaniel Woodward to all of us this morning. And so here we go. Born and raised in rural eastern Utah, Nathaniel recently returned to his hometown after beginning his career as an attorney in Portland. After returning, he felt the need to help rebuild his community in any way he could and advocate for its most vulnerable members. In February, he saw a plea for help from a mother on Facebook who had reached out to her local state legislative representative asking for assistance in finding justice for her disabled daughter who had been subjected to a brutal sexual attack. This mother asked for help creating and passing a law that would hold those who attack disabled adults to the same sentencing standards as if their victims were children, a much stricter consequence. Her elected representative was not only dismissive of this wounded mother's plea, but was outright upset that she would dare make such a request of her during the legislative session, as she was far too busy to even think about helping out. Apparently, she was far too busy wasting taxpayer money uh, in a hypothetical farce protecting children against fictitious bathroom boogeymen, rather than championing a change in law that would actually protect our children. As the father of a child with Down syndrome, Nathaniel could not let this wounded mother feel unheard and offered to help, clearing out his own busy schedule the next day to meet with her. By the end of by the end of the day, he had put together a detailed memo covering the state of our current sentencing laws, Ashley's story, and what changes could be made to the existing laws, which he then forwarded to every legislator and media personality he knew. And Ashley's Law was born. A few weeks later, sweet Ashley passed away. Although all of us uh, were devastated, we resolved to fight on with Nathaniel leading the charge. Nathaniel promises to take this fight and others such as Law syndrome to Washington, so our disabled children, siblings, friends, and loved ones are protected, given equitable treatment under Medicaid, Medicare, and disability regulations. And there are beautiful little, give me just one second. And there are beautiful little Valerie's and Ashley's is given a legacy that lasts forever. This is only the beginning, and we are going to change the world. with that, Nathaniel, I'll ask if you have anything that you would like to add to that, or if you're ready to move on to our first question.
I don't have anything to add to that. That was very kind. And so thank you, Andrew, for reading that. And I'm ready for the first question.
All right. Um, with with that, the first question has to do with access to. Oh, the the first question is: as a candidate representing all Utahns, please share with us your vision and or mission on how you plan to serve the people of Utah, including those with disabilities.
That is an important concept. I think a lot of people need to internalize. And I like the way that question is written, is that representing all Utahns, and then my plan to serve people with of Utah with disabilities. Because I think those two things are not mutually exclusive. In order to serve all of Utah, we need to particularly serve the most vulnerable people in the state. Now, that could be a wide number of people, including people with disabilities, as far as people subjected to abuse, to people that are food or income or housing insecure. And what you see is all those vulnerable groups kind of funnel down into and towards the disability community, who seems to be the most at risk when it comes to those housing and food and other issues. And so, in order to be able to serve all of Utah, we need to look at our organizations that advocate for people with disabilities, like this one here at Utah State, or the one that Mr. Riggle works for, in addition to many other ones, and ask them, what do you see are the biggest problems affecting your community, and how can the government best advocate for them? We get a lot of leaders and people aspiring to places like Congress that are going to come to you saying, I've got a plan, I know how to fix all these things. And I do have a plan, and that plan is to fix all these things. But in order to do that, I can't do it alone. I don't have the experience and the knowledge and even the physical strength to carry all that on my own. And so I need the input and the support of these different groups in order to identify the most pressing issues, see what's most successful, what's been the most helpful and beneficial, and then use my ability and my leverage and my position to scale those efforts up. You, like the Disability Law Center, are already doing the work that needs to be done. You just need someone that can advocate for you at the highest level to elevate the platform, give you all of the resources, not just that you need and deserve, but to fund it to such a degree that this isn't even a question anymore, that there are these gaps in our laws. And so as someone in Congress, I hope to be able to be that facilitator between what works and what you need. I'm not going to be there and be the one that originates with all the ideas. In fact, I think I'm a thoroughly average person. I just happen to have this platform at this time, and I want to use it for these purposes. But nobody going to Congress should be able to go there with just an agenda of their own. I need to take what you've already done and let's help out and make it better.
Thank you for that very thoughtful answer. Kelly?
Thank you, Nathaniel. This next question is regarding access to education. Many students in Utah take advantage of programs such as career and technical education, college readiness preparation, and internships. However, students with disabilities are largely excluded from these programs, despite being able to participate in them if provided with the proper supports. How will you ensure that students with disabilities have equal access to the same programs and opportunities as their non-disabled peers?
I love this question because education is one of my favorite topics to discuss and interact with. In fact, and I have to apologize, I'm wearing just my regular clothes today, not because I'm overly lazy, which does happen on Fridays, But today I get to go to one of our local elementary schools and give a presentation for a couple hours to a couple second grade classes on dinosaurs and fossils. Because let's be real, I only moonlight as a lawyer. My real job is playing with rocks. And so I love this education aspect because school is for everybody. Everybody needs it. Everybody deserves it. As a society, we all benefit from it. And it's not just the education of those like me who went to, the traditional path, go through college, go to law school, graduate, enter the workforce. College is more than job training. In fact, I think job training shouldn't even be part of our university education necessarily. University education is to expand your mind, enlighten the world, to make everything more rich and beautiful, and to disassociate the concept of being good at your job and being a whole person is dangerous as a society. Now, that extends especially to our population of disabled students. Now, when we say disabled, that is a term that means an awful lot of things, doesn't it? And so we need to be more creative with our inclusivity efforts for these programs. And this comes all the way down to, and I don't want to jump ahead to further questions, but I will mention, an important case in U.S. history is the Olmsted case, which said that people with disabilities need to be treated equally in employment, especially in employment settings, as people who don't possess a similar disability. And we really failed on that on the academic level by not including these people, whether they be with Down syndrome or like my sweet Ashley with Rett syndrome, or the myriad of other issues we face as a society and as individuals. We need programs that are designed to be inclusive, not just for the disabled community, because people who aren't like me benefit tremendously from an association with them. I'm very lucky to have, be a father of someone who had Down syndrome, and I have those things in my life, and I see the benefits of having this type of interaction. It is the definition of the purpose of a university education. And to enrich us in such a way, I think would be worth more than any tuition cost could possibly be. So how do we go about doing that actually is an interesting question. We already have, some really neat programs that are designed for people in specific disability groups, usually, to come into the university setting and go through programs. I would like to see those and see what has worked, and we can expand upon what we feel is the best and make them more inclusive into these other programs. I myself teach in a graduate medical school program, interdisciplinary, so different types of medical professionals going about. I don't get the opportunity to work with a lot of people with disabilities, although there are several, and I get to see their accommodations come in every term. And I meet with other faculty members who kind of, roll their eyes when they see accommodations. And I get really excited when I see them because I'm seeing a system that is adapting to the educational needs of its students. I'm not making my class easier for anyone. I'm just making it more inclusive and accessible. It's the same way as adding a ramp upstairs. There is no difference in doing that. It's not inhibiting anyone. It's not giving people with disabilities an advantage or a leg up that's going to make them lazy. It's just leveling the playing field. And so we need to look at the educational system and really focus on the term of equity, not equal, because equality is not equitable at all. If I'm going to go to the Olympics and I'm going to race against Usain Bolt, which I know that dates me a little bit, but if it was equal, me and him would start at the same spot, at the starting line. If it was equitable, I would start on the 90-yard line while he started at the beginning. And that way I'd have a chance of beating him. That's equity. Now, in a race situation, that's easy to understand. But in an education system, we need to really ask ourselves, what is equitable? So we start with the admissions process. How do we allow or get these people access to come to our universities? Utah State University, I think, is the best example of this because it's the land-grant university. It's all over the place. And so there are all these communities that have this access. So we have a big step already taken care of. Next, though, is the challenging bit, is how do we integrate our students with disabilities into the more traditional academic courses. And that would require, and I know as a faculty member, this is sacrilege to say, is updating our syllabuses, our syllabi. We have to adjust our courses so we can teach them in a better way. And that's a challenging thing, and that's good. Challenging, it helps us grow. My law school dean used to say that, challenges invite the opportunity for growth. We have the opportunity to distinguish ourselves as faculty, as professors, by designing courses in a new revolutionary way that enhances the educational experience. Now, how we go about that, it depends on the subject, because I teach law and ethics. I could definitely make mine much more accessible in that degree, but there are other programs that may have a little bit more of a challenge, and I would look forward to the opportunity to solve that. And then the final part of that, which I think bleeds into an area I'm passionate about called law syndrome, is we need to make it available to our disabled community at an affordable rate. Because we all know student loans are out of hand. It costs me almost $400,000 to become a lawyer. It is not an equitable system at all for anyone, let alone and especially the disabled community. So we need to look at how we award things like Pell Grants and other types of educational grants, and even loans and interest rates. A big part of being able to go to college is to obtain a loan. And I don't know of any institution that will loan to someone with Down syndrome. And so we have to adjust just the financial institutions aspect alone as well. And so it can be very complicated, but complicated problems invite an opportunity to have really creative solutions. And so I think my plan would be to on a national level, get all the coalitions together, all the organizations together, hold a detailed conference where we discuss how we're going to approach this, and then have someone like me in Congress who is annoying enough to not let the issue go. And that's how I worked on a local level, and I intend to just scale up what I know works here. Because if I need to get a new Allosaurus arm for my museum, I'm going to find a way to do it, and that involves me doing it on my 3D printer with my 8-year-old. I'll start there, and then we'll scale it up. Congress is not that mystifying. You just have to do what works here and make it bigger. And so we'll take the advocacy groups we already have in place, and let's just give them a bigger platform and tell us, what do you think the education system needs to do? And go from there.
Thank you. Thanks for your thoughts around that. That was a very thoughtful answer.
And then now we're going to transition from education to employment. And currently, data shows that individuals with any disability in Utah have a community-based employment rate of 53% compared to the overall employment rate of 78% for all Utahns. Many Utahns with disabilities can and want to work, but don't have access to the supports necessary to find and retain employment. How will you work to increase employment opportunities for individuals with disabilities in Utah, ensuring they receive the necessary supports and accommodations for job success?
Thanks, Andrew. I like the employment opportunities question a lot, because I feel I'm a little bit more confident in this area. Now, if people talk, this is political. I'm a congressional candidate, and so I will straight up say I'm not a moderate with my politics. In fact, I think no one should be a moderate in their own politics. I think you should have passion. I think you should want to serve people to the best of your abilities, to the extent that beyond what they need, to build a garden that will produce fruit for generations to come, to be willing to plant seeds, the shade of the trees of which I won't sit under. And when it comes to employment, we have to balance a couple of different things. I think it's inviting, again, an opportunity to do something really cool here. So I would advocate kind of two different approaches to this. So starting with the first, and that's the private sector. Small businesses. I'm a small business owner. I work for me, which is it's horrible. I'm a terrible boss to myself. But as a boss, if I'm going to hire more staff, I'm going to look at, well, can this person, I have a need that needs to be filled. Can this person interviewing fill that need? As a boss, though, I should be a little bit more creative than that. I should say, this isn't just a need I need filled. How can I take this person, this individual, and tailor the role to their skills? Because if you're trying to tailor a worker skills to the role, you're gonna get a functional employee, but that's all you're gonna get. You're not going to get someone who is truly an asset and a benefit to your whole organization. And so I would want to, on the private sector, start some initiatives that incentivize hiring people, bosses or whoever may be hiring, to take a longer and closer look at all the candidates, but in the interest of equity, have incentive programs in place for them to especially or particularly hire people with disabilities. Now, we do it, and it's a weird analogy here, but we already do this in a lot of ways with convicts from the prison system. If you are willing as a business to hire someone who's been incarcerated, you can get a rebate every month. You get a check in the mail from the government saying, thank you for taking a chance on this person. Because, and I believe in it strongly, people who are formerly incarcerated deserve every chance that we can give them to improve their lives and work. Same thing with people in the disability community. They don't just deserve it. We deserve them. We need them. We need that enrichment in our lives. So I don't think it'll be terribly challenging. We start with an incentive program that maybe, let's say, either subsidizes the wage of the employee or just gives an outright, tax benefit. I think we could phase it out over time because more and more private business owners would come to realize the assets and the benefits that disabled employees provide to them. The other end of that is the government approach. Now, I'm a New Deal Democrat. That's how I define myself. I think FDR had a wonderful, tremendously impactful, revolutionary idea in what was the CCC, where people, if you needed work, the government had a program to provide you work, and that work directly benefited the American people in a really cool way. It built a lot of our trail systems in our national parks. It built reservoirs and fishing ponds and did all sorts of neat things. A lot of the rural roads out here in eastern Utah where I live were built by CCC work. We got rid of that after FDR, but I think that's a program we should revisit. We should talk about having these things available, and especially for the people of the disabled community, because we deal with things like law syndrome, where they want to work, they want to have regular, normal, respectful lives that we all get and we completely take for granted. But I don't have to worry about losing benefits and stuff. On the other end, with this disability community, they are at severe risk of losing everything if they even dare to want to work. And so if we bring back something like the CCC, where we can find meaningful, proactive, progressive projects in our communities that need the work and the people who need to be, be working to have not just an income. And I find that more often than not, it's not an income driving motivator. It is they want to be involved. You want to be part of the community, part of the conversation, part of the solution, or even part of the problem. Sometimes it's a lot of fun to be part of the problem. But they need the opportunity. And so if we bring back something like the CCC and we have a good organization or a structure within the government to facilitate this, I think this could be one incredible opportunity for not just the disabled community, but for the Utah in general. How we go about that, it's a much longer discussion and very pie in the sky at the moment. But there's no reason we couldn't be able to do this. The state of Utah recently got in a bit of trouble here for violating some pretty big federal standards. That stem from the Olmstead case that I mentioned earlier. I don't know if there's a question on this a little bit later, so I won't go too far into it. But our state government and our federal government need to get better at understanding, yes, we need to hire people from the disability community. We also need to treat them the same way we treat our other employees, integrating them in with everyone else. This is not a separate but equal thing, which is what the state of Utah has been doing. This is the opposite of what needs to be happening. It is not jobs just to have income and to say I have a job. They're treating the members of our disabled community like lesser people. And that is unacceptable. Even though I can see they might have done it from an altruistic standpoint, they thought what they were doing is right, but that's just as problematic. They need to be fully educated on what it means to be disabled and what it means to be in the workplace. Because if our idea, like college, is to just go get a job, and if our idea for work is to just make money, we have lost a lot of texture of our culture, and our society will fail if we don't bring back the pride that comes from accomplishing a day's work, not by receiving a paycheck.
Thank you. Kelly?
Thank you for that. Okay, so our next question is on accessible infrastructure and community integration. Accessible infrastructure is critical to Utahns with disabilities in order to live, work, and participate in their communities. Increased access in areas such as public transportation, sidewalks, buildings, and physical or online information will allow for greater community integration for Utahns. How will you help our state and communities be more supportive of people with disabilities and their families?
This is also a really good question. Thank you, Kelly. Now, I'm running in Utah's 2nd Congressional District. If you pull it up, if you Google that kind of map, it's going to make you scratch your head, because there are 4 congressional districts, and my one covers over half of the state, 13 counties. Goes from Farmington down to St. George, over to Kanab, up through Richfield and Manti. It's all over the place. And so we want to make sure our rural communities are able to do this, because budgets are much more tight when it comes to places like Delta versus places like Bountiful. And so we need to pass regulations that can be applied equitably to the communities, but still be effective. It's like how we handled climate regulations. What makes sense in San Francisco doesn't make sense in Carbon County, right? So we need to do the same for our communities. And so we need to, once again, put in the legwork where let's go over to Delta, or down to Kanab, or over to Richfield, and talk to these smaller communities saying, what's going on with your disabled population? How are you addressing this? What issues are you seeing? What are your funding issues? And then saying, okay, well, what can I do from the federal standpoint to help boost you up and do this? And so it's almost the most boring answer to give. But number one is I would try to find as much funding as possible, because there are already initiatives in place to fix a lot of these accessibility issues. And now you just need money. And, I'm not necessarily a very, accomplished, creative person. I'm a really good hunting dog. Point me in the direction and I'll tree that cat for you. I'll be there. Let's get that done. And so let me be your hound dog, I guess is what I'm saying here. Tell me what works in your community and we'll build it up. We can't then just pass some overarching thing that works in Bountiful and Farmington and Salt Lake City and expect it's going to work elsewhere. And so we need to establish kind of regional advisory councils that can investigate what's going on, report back to your congressional representative, and then take that to Washington. And this is the antithesis of what a congressional candidate should be doing right now. But I don't know if you met with Celeste Malloy yet, but Celeste is a person who would champion this. She is a genuinely good person who's good at her job. I have some significant disagreements with her, sure. But I would, from the disability perspective, I would trust her to do a lot of these things. And I would hope if I won, I could rely on Celeste's support to help facilitate this exact kind of initiative. And so I would hope you, as the voting base listening right now, whether I win or not, demand whoever's in office take these issues forward. Say, we will not accept to be placed behind anything. We've been in line. It is our turn. Let's do this now. And if you can get that message to Celeste, she'll do it. And I'm here to support her, whether as a private citizen or if I beat her as the member of Congress. I'm here to help regardless of whether I win or not. You will have my support. If you look at Ashley's law, that took me one angry day where I was mad at a politician to get that going. One spiteful dude in Eastern Utah could do that. Any of us could go out and make a huge change in any topic we really want. And that's all we really need to focus on is don't be too disappointed if your candidate wins or loses this election. Whatever happens, commit and resolve to move forward and push these issues regardless. I don't need to be a member of Congress to make a difference. I've already shown that, and I'll continue to show that. But I'm telling you, if you put me in that office, we're going to see some really cool change. I'm going to annoy a lot of people over there, and then I'm going to retire after a few years and come back home and do what I'm doing here because I belong here among my friends and my family, my community, because this is what I care about. And this is where I know I can make the most difference. So thank you for giving me this time, and Andrew and Kelly for these questions. They were excellent.
Thank you so much, Nathaniel. We've really appreciated your time and your thought around some of these questions. And I appreciate your energy and your intention around this. We're at time, so we're gonna wrap things up, and I'm gonna shift it over to Aubrey.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nathaniel. I wish we had time to get to the rest of them as well, but I so appreciate the rich discussion and your answers thus far, and hopefully we can look forward to discussing this more as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. We do have another event coming up on Tuesday next week, I believe at 11 a.m. Let me double check that. 10 a.m. No, yes, 11 a.m. I do really want to quickly give a quick time over to Andrew just to talk about voting. But again, Nathaniel, thank you so much for joining us today. We so appreciated having you. And please let us know if there's anything we can do for you in the future as well.
I appreciate likewise. I'm here if you need anything.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aubrey. The deadline to register to vote by mail is October 25th, 2024. You can also register at any early voting location. Additionally, you can register at your polling place location on November 5th, Election Day. If you have a disability that makes it hard for you to read or mark a ballot independently, you might be able to vote electronically. You can make your choices and return it using your phone, tablet, or computer. Call or email your county clerk's office to find out how to sign up for this option. For more information on your rights and the voting process in general, visit the Disability Law Center's voting rights webpage at disabilitylawcenter.org/issues/voting-rights.
Perfect, Andrew. And I put that in the chat for anyone who needs it. I think that concludes our event today. Thank you so much, Kelly and Andrew, for facilitating and moderating. Thank you to Crystal for your support with ASL interpretation. And thank you again to Nathaniel Woodward for joining us. And thank you everyone else for joining us as well. I hope you have a lovely Friday.